Viva Gorditas!
Bless you, Taco Bell.
Alright, I just picked up my press pass, courtesy of the Los Angeles Latino International Film Festival. First of all, I want to thank them for inviting me this year again, and also to my friends at Latinx in Animation to help me out with it as well for this year's event. So I am pretty excited for this. This is really neat. My own press pass from them. This is a big deal for me, so I will use it wisely or use it responsibly. I think I'm going to use both. So overall, I'm pretty excited for this year's highlights, you guys. So without further ado, let's begin. So if you guys new to my channel, so the LA Latino International Film Festival is a film festival that's done every year, dedicated to Latin filmmakers and animators. So I'm here today particularly for animation related stuff. So I will be covering a couple of events related to animation thus far to this video. So yeah, if you guys don't know, it's a film festival. Another one that we get every year right here in beautiful Los Angeles, California. So yeah, I'm early and everyone is also early too. People are just lining up for certain events while I'm gonna do some couple panels and hopefully do the red carpet for the animated shorts that are premiering this year, courtesy of Latinx in Animation. They'll be the ones helping me for some of the events today. So this is great beneficial chances that I'm doing for them. So thanks again to Latinx Animation, and yep, very excited for today. So this is great. Okay, a few minutes ago, you guys, I just reunited with Edward James Olmos from Stand and Deliver, Miami Vice, recently in Moon Girl, which I did highlight a couple years back. But yeah, it was just so nice to see him again, though. He was pretty chill. He was just very wise. I mean, come on. He was in Stand and Deliver, you guys. That's a classic right there, you know, very LA history. So yeah, this is pretty great so far. It hasn't even started yet. I'm just waiting for the few panels I'm intending for to start, so that, you know, that.
They've been award-winning, from Oscars to all the accolades you can think of. Outside of films, we also do serialized content, shorts, podcasts, and we're executive producing our very first scripted show with Glenn Powell called Chad Powers this year, which will come out on September 30th. And I get the great honor as a proud Dominican American and immigrant American to work across all those things. And today, I will wait until they get the speakers and you'll get a beautiful sizzle, but we'll come back to that. But today I'm honored to be joined by Daniel, who has an amazing film today, premiering here in Los Angeles called Espina. And he's incredibly talented. I'll let him introduce himself, but he's one of our two filmmakers. We created a program that I'll tell you more about because we are not pitching enough. We're telling our stories to the degree that on the developments I would like to see. And this year, Daniel is going to be on a journey here with us. So, Daniel, I've talked a lot. I'm going to let you introduce yourself and tell everyone a little bit about yourself.
Thank you. I mean, you have such a long title.
It's very long.
It's
very exhausting.
It's a filmmaker. But thank you. No, yeah. So I'm a filmmaker. I do a lot of documentary, fiction work. I used to work for a while at Condé Nast, and then this feature that we're screening here today at 9:15 p.m. It's inspired by a documentary I did previously that I released with The New Yorker, and this feature as well is co-produced by The New Yorker. It's their first Hispanic feature, which I'm very proud of. I mean, I've worked at this movie for so long, and finally I got them to like something in Spanish. So yeah, it's really beautiful movie. Now I get to work with you on this incredible documentary project that we're doing together. So I'm very honored to be here with you.
and we have a very exciting panel about to start. But before we begin, we'd like to acknowledge that we are standing in the ancestral lands of tribal nations and their citizens. We pay respect to elders both past and present. Specifically, in Los Angeles, we recognize that we are occupying land that belongs to the Tongva, Tataviam, and Chumash peoples. Please take a moment to reflect on the many legacies of violence, displacement, migration, and settlement that bring us together here today. We'd invite you to join us in exploring such truths at any and all public events. And the rest of our panelists, come on out. No specific order. And I'll let Lorenzo take it from here.
Hi everybody, thank you for coming. Casey, do you want to start? Or actually, should we, let's do the introductions first and then we'll do the video so you guys can also see what we're talking about.
Hey everybody, thanks for coming. My name's Casey Esser. Really briefly, in regard to this space, in 2022, 2023, I was like most actors in the sense that I wasn't working, and my agent, my manager sent me a message and they were like, hey, we think you're really talented, but this just, isn't happening. And so I was like, okay. I went back on the casting sites and I saw a listing for something called Fated to My Forbidden Alpha, and it was a mobisode, listed as a mobisode. I was like, oh, this is interesting. And I submitted, didn't hear anything. And then a friend of mine from acting class said, hey, I know this real short producer and they're looking for this Alpha Alexander character and they can't, find him. And I was like, oh, I submitted for that, but they didn't say anything, but I'll follow up. And I messaged the producer and, long story short, I had it booked by that night. And that happened to be, probably one of the first viral verticals in the United States. And I've been in that space ever since.
Hi everybody, I'm Jocelyn Zhao. I am the executive producer at Real Short. So if you know vertical stories, you will know Real Short. And my department is leading in production side and also international B2B partnership. And I'm so glad Casey mentioned that, Fated to My Forbidden Alpha, because that was the first one that we worked together on vertical storytelling. And I'm very excited to be here today to share my insights about how vertical contents are evolving and what that might mean and what kind of impact it has on audiences and creators aside.
Hi guys, my name is Adriana Santos. I'm also an executive producer that kind of transferred myself into that position but started like producer in the vertical. My transition, all my career is from the traditional filmmaking, but then we got this proposal from a French client and French app that they basically told us, we want to start making this new content in a vertical format. So we want to follow your expertise to see how we can start introducing ourselves into this. So yeah, it has been a really interesting transition of a 1-year journey.
Hello guys, hola. Hola.
Can you guys hear me?
We can hear him. I can speak like that if not. Yeah, that's fine.
Hello guys, so my name is Alejandro Fumero. I am also an executive producer, but I started a long time ago as an actor. Then I moved, started producing more in the world of commercials, music videos, short films, you name it. And then I also work with Adriana Santos. She's my partner in the company. And, I think it was about a year and a half ago, we got hit with this proposal from Shorts, and then we started developing verticals content since, still to the day. Yeah, it's a little bit of my background.
Hi everyone, I am Carlos Rafael Betancourt from La Habana, Cuba. I started one of the first indie production companies back in 2008 over there, moved to the United States, and went to AFI for directing. After that, I graduated and went back to Miami and shot a feature with my friends and like reunited with that indie production company, sold that film to HBO, got another feature film with producers from Broadway, adapted a theater play into a film. That's a second feature, it's called Borrowed, and it's on Amazon now. Distribution with Buffalo 8, it was also here at LALIFF. And very recently, I started in the vertical space, so I'm more in the transition. This year, I actually got approached by someone from AFI, from the school, producer from school, and she's working for Daily Motion, which is a big company in this space. So we started adapting one of the first ones that they're going to be doing in Spanish. So we'll be doing it, hopefully shot in Mexico City. It's gonna be one of their big push for a show fully in Spanish.
All right, the first couple panels so far, they've been pretty good. Great job, you guys. So yeah, I'm pretty excited for this panel. I don't think I ever talked about video games before here, so this is great though, since I've been making a lot of video game related videos. I think it's for the best they do more video game stuff here.
Hey everyone, welcome back from lunch. Before we begin, we'd like to acknowledge that we are standing in ancestral lands of tribal nations and their citizens. We pay respect to elders both past and present, specifically in Los Angeles. We recognize that we are occupying land that belongs to the Tongva, Tatavyam, and Chumash peoples. Please take a moment to reflect on the many legacies of violence, displacement, migration, and settlement that bring us together here today. We invite you to join us in exploring such truths at any and all public events. I'm so thankful for all of you, especially the ones on my team. And if you're just joining us for the first time, this is day 2 of the Industry Forum Lounge presented by Audible. And day 2 is all about unlocking the future. And I'm so excited for our next panel, Breaking into Video Games. It's one I specifically asked if we could program this this year because of how many video game adaptations are happening, how much more overlap is happening between the two mediums. I got to work on Twisted Metal, Season 1 and Season 2, as the showrunner's assistant, and I have an episode I co-wrote coming out in July. And it was a game I was only allowed to play at friends' houses, not in my house growing up. But I'm so excited. We have 3 incredible panelists, an incredible moderator. I'd like to welcome to the stage now. Come on out. Please pick your seats. Choose your seats. I'm so excited. Danny Pena is going to lead this conversation, and I'll let him tell you who he is, and he'll take us from here. Thank you so much.
All right. First thing first, any gamers out there? We got a couple. All right, gamers.
Big one here.
All right, so my name is Danny Pena. I'm a founder and co-host of Gamer Tag Radio. We've been doing our podcast now for like over 20 years now. Also, I got inducted to the Podcast Hall of Fame back in 2015, first Latino to get the award. And yeah, we're gonna talk about getting into the industry. So, you want to present yourself first?
Sure. Hey everyone, I'm Carla Reyes. My pronouns are she, her, and I'm a game designer by trade. I'm the founder and creative director of a small indie studio called Anima Interactive, which focuses on socially conscious storytelling. So we're currently developing a game that is about migration, so relevant to this community. Obviously, it follows the journeys of migrants and asylum seekers on their way to cross the U.S.-Mexico border. Heavy hitting topic, but maybe we'll address that a little bit later. But yeah, happy to be here.
Next.
Hi everyone, my name is Michelle Pena. I am currently a senior game designer over at Full Circle Studio. Previously I was at Blizzard working on Diablo 4 and Activision Publishing, and then before that I graduated from USC's School of Cinematic Arts during 2020, the pandemic, so that was super fun. With a major in a bachelor's in interactive entertainment.
Such esteemed colleagues. My name is Hector Sanchez. I'm currently the president of Interactive and New Media at Annapurna. Before that, I worked at Epic Games, starting the Epic Games publishing division. And then before that, I've been in the industry for a long time. I was a producer on Mortal Kombat for a long time. I think that's where we first met. Dan, right? Way back in the day.
Actually, we got to talk about that.
So yeah, been doing this for a really long time, and really happy to be here.
All right. So I think we should start with this question because Hector, you said you've been doing this for a long time. Hector, I know during the time you worked on Mortal Kombat back in those days, it looks like now more than ever, the film industry and the TV industry are getting into games, right? Why it is working now more than ever than before?
Yeah, that's really good thing and a big discussion, I guess, for all of us to have, right? Like, it feels like video games now are like the new comics, right? Like, comics for like the last 10, 15 years has been the place where people are mining stories, right? IP to get from. And now games are coming, to the forefront. I think what it is that like we're coming of age, right? Like we grew up with games, right? Like all of us, like our kind of generation. So now it's not looked at as kind of like this side thing that it was kind of when we were younger, right? It was, the video games, it was not to say it was nerdy, but like, when we were kids, it was always looked at this way. I think now that everyone grew up and it's part of the mainstream, now people are starting to see that those stories are valid and are ripe for adaptation. I think I think there was an attempt in the 90s to try to do it, but there weren't really good ones, right? Like, you remember the first Mario Brothers movie, right? Like with our boy, with our boy John Leguizamo in there representing, right? Well-known Italian plumber John Leguizamo. The Resident Evil movies, right? Like all those, like the Street Fighter one, right? Like they were campy. But I think now in the last, kind of like 10 years or so, they've been a lot more sophisticated, and I think the storytelling in games have become more sophisticated. So there's a lot more of an adaptation that you can go. So I think that's why we're where we're at right now.
Any advice for those that they have a great pitch, great story, and they want to maybe turn a film or a TV into a game?
Yeah.
What is like the right way to pitch it to a studio?
Yeah, well, I guess like as an indie, we're kind of going through this process. But one thing that I would mention actually is if you are interested, like as a filmmaker, for example, like how do I get started with even like getting involved in the game development process? There are these things called game jams, which are basically like the games industry equivalent of like a hackathon. And there's a website called itch.io. You can like go and see and join Discord communities, etc. We host a couple like game jams as well. We actually partnered with Trevor Noah's production studio, who primarily they focus on film and TV, but they wanted to explore games because Trevor Noah is an indie gamer and likes games and wants to support the community. So we hosted this game jam, and we had people who were like film writers, right, participate, and because it's like a low barrier to entry, so it's a great way to network and meet people who are game developers. And then, they actually want to potentially further develop those prototypes and invest in those prototypes. So game jams are like a new and interesting way potentially to start just getting started. And then pitching, I feel like maybe Hector can speak to that a little bit more because he's probably on the other side as a publisher, but it depends on, I think probably similar to film, right? You want to find the distributor that's kind of aligned with the ethos or the values of the content that you're creating or the stories that you're trying to tell. Certainly in our case, like, right, we have a pretty specific topic for our game, for example. So it's like, well, who are the publishers or distributors or investors that might be interested in this topic, right? Maybe it's not someone that's US based because of how like inherently political, I don't know. These are just like things. So, to take a look at some of your favorite games and see like who published them, is Annapurna the one that is right? Or like, Xbox and then usually publishers just have open applications on their websites, right? You can just submit pitches. No. No. Okay, well sometimes they do. Sometimes they do. But yeah, that's what I advise.
Yeah, it's a different medium, right? Like writing for games, I'm sure you know as a designer, right? Like designing and writing for games is completely different than, you know, kind of linear media, right? Like because with linear, it's a passive experience, right? Like you're in control of what the audience member kind of sees. Where in games, you want to create an environment where the player has agency and like, you know, they feel like, even if it's an illusion, that they have control over the story. You want to give them that kind of like propulsive technique to kind of make them. So it's a different kind of writing style that you have to do, and I'm sure you've had to think about that in your career.
Yeah, if you write for games, you basically live in a spreadsheet as opposed to an actual like script or Word doc. Because you have to account for things like depending on the game and everything. Like even just something as small as like your NPC companions barks at you. That's what we call it when they're like, hey, look over here. Or like, oh no, there's something over there. Like we call those barks. And you have to think about these little minute things that to keep the player invested in the world and immersed in the interactive experience.
I know Hector earlier said something about Mortal Kombat that we met. So, crazy story. So we were doing an interview for a show. I can't remember what it was. And we were doing a remote, and we were talking about Mortal Kombat. And then Hector, out of nowhere, started saying, "Oh yeah, you know that Two Latinos was the one that came up with Mortal Kombat." And I'm like, "Wait, what? Two Latinos?" Hector, I think you should break it down.
Yeah, that's
because
crazy.
this is very important, very important. This
It is, right? Like it's always inspirational, right? Like it happens everywhere. You know, in order for you to kind of pursue a career, you need to see somebody that like looks like you or whatever to inspire you to be like, okay, if they did it, I can do it. So I think for Chicago Latinos, it was the co-creators of Mortal Kombat. So Ed Boon and John Tobias, both John's Mexican from the South Side. Ed is Dominican, he's probably your cousin, right?
Latino,
like up there, that's in there. So it was really inspirational, you know, as a kid to see that because they were able to create an IP that resonated around the world, and you know, they were influenced by the same things that we were influenced in the hood, right? Like kung fu movies, like, you know, music, all kinds of like violent, unfortunately, like ultra, you know, like super violent. But it was really inspirational to see like, all right, if these guys made it, and they were able to create something that resonates like worldwide, like that's who stopped, like there's nothing stopping you, and I think that's,
and if they could do it, we could do
it.
Is there any shows that you feel like, man, they did it right, or movies, any ones that have been coming out the past couple of years that stood out to you, that did a pretty good job explaining like the story, characters,
with like
connected with it?
Yeah, it's so hard, I will say. Oh, with games specifically?
Yeah, with games, yes.
Yeah, that's a tough one. Maybe I'm a little biased because I used to work at, I didn't mention I used to work in AAA, so I worked at Square Enix, you know, who make the Final Fantasy series, but I was working on their Western division, so like supported like the Life is Strange series, if you're familiar. And Life is Strange does a lot of work with representation, and I really appreciated the process because we got involved, you know, as you know, people of color, as people from the LGBTQIA community to kind of consult. And there's you know, I think there's a little bit of controversy around this with like representation and how you bring people into the fold, because of course you don't want, you know, one person on your team to be tokenized and say like they can speak on behalf of like everybody that belongs to a specific subculture or community. So I think it's like a work in progress, and that like everybody in the industry is like just constantly learning and having to grow, because I don't know if anybody's going to get it 100% right, right? Like I think that's one of the challenges. But certainly, if you have good intentions and you are taking the approach to like ask the people, ask your audience, right? Like listening to player feedback, and I think that's one of the really cool things about interactive as a medium in general, compared to something that's maybe more finite like film, is that developers can really listen to their communities and address that feedback and make updates to their games, etc. Not always, but like sometimes with live games, for example, like. And that's really cool because it shows. So one example, like Animal Crossing New Horizons was really big during the pandemic, right? And there were actually a lot of people that were complaining when it first was released because they didn't have as many customization options for hair or skin color. And you know, Nintendo listened. They actually like released an update shortly after that with additional customization options, and that was really cool to see, right? That they listened to their community.
I think for me, the one that I like is Castlevania, the animated series on Netflix. I think that's the one for me because it's more of a extension of the IP versus trying to retell a story that's already been told in the game, right? Like I think the most successful kind of adaptations or extensions are ones that take elements from the story but take it into another place, because I think in order for it to be a successful adaptation, you have to tell the story better than what's already been told in the game. And like, Last of Us, I feel is starting to, it came out really strong, but like now you can see that there's a little bit of, from the hardcore player community, they're like, wait, this is different from the game. But yeah, it is going to be different because it's a different medium, and like people have to be okay with that. So I think the ones that are non-controversial but are really good are the adaptations that extend the IP and kind of build out the universe. And if you can watch Castlevania without having played all the games and still kind of get it, because it has those, kind of like the tropes of vampires and things that you already know. Whereas like, sometimes if you have to lean too hard into what's made the game popular, you're gonna upset people. You're gonna alienate people that don't have familiarity with it, and you're gonna anger the people who are hardcore in it. So I think the most successful ones are the ones that ride that line and kind of expand the IP.
I was just gonna say, I feel like Fallout does a really good job
Yeah,
as
I
well.
was gonna
What
say
you're
Fallout.
saying, just like expanding the world and everything.
Yeah, Fallout was pretty cool. Like actually watching that series made me want to go play the older games. So, and that's really hard to do. Really, really hard to do with that. But The Last of Us, here's the thing that for me, like I love it, but I feel like I already know the story. But it's interesting seeing people that have never experienced the game and watching the series for the first time, and they're like, their mind is blown. They're like, oh man, this is awesome, great story and everything. So, do you think it is important to release TV shows and movies like that, where, like we're saying, expand the universe instead of just keeping the same story from the game to the series?
Definitely, I think that's the future of storytelling, especially as like, we come of age and we start to get into positions of power where we can influence the content that's being produced and financed. We know that there's opportunity to build stories across multiple mediums, right? Like you can build, nowadays you can build a universe that touches games, that touches podcasts, that, touches linear stuff. Like, I really do think like that's a fertile ground to start building stories in advance. And the way to do that is to get the right creatives in the room that understand each one of the mediums and give them the opportunity to cook and come up with those things. So that's something that we're hopefully pursuing.
Now, my question is, because sometimes gamers feel like, oh, they need to know a lot about the games. They need to play the game in order to make the TV show better or a movie. Do you think that is important or not? Because I don't think so. I think it helps. I know the director and the writer that worked on Fallout, they actually are fans of Fallout, but there's others that don't play at all. So what do you have to say about that?
I think I'm a proponent of they at least need to watch playthroughs of the game, I think. I feel like playing the game is obviously a really good idea too, because they get to feel what the medium, the original medium, the work was created in, and like the original intent behind it, to then move that idea into their adaptation with, the new medium, TV, film, animation, whatever it may be. But yeah, I think at least, watching playthroughs or just doing deep dives for sure.
Yeah, I feel like it depends on the goals, right, of the creatives and like how much they want to maintain the integrity of the IP, because certainly if that's the original like inspiration, you want to honor that. But at the same time, if you're doing something that is adapted to a different audience or modernizing something, like then those are the conversations that open up. But yeah, if you are like, if it is adhering to a specific IP, you want to kind of immerse yourself in that universe and world to understand where did it start, what's the source. Right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, why is it special, right? Like, what is it about this particular story that has made it a successful thing? I think, not to denigrate anything, but I think Halo, right, is a really good example of that, right? Where with Halo, they took the mask off of Master Chief, which is something that never happened in the games, and wonder why people like didn't vibe with it, right? Like, and immediately like that was the thing. So I think you have to have the original creators of the IP in the room. And I think now the medium of games is revered and respected, that you know, a showrunner or a film director isn't going to be like, well, why is this game writer in there, and think that they're going to welcome it, right? And I think having those creative, collaborative conversations is going to net really good storytelling opportunities in the future.
Remember the Matrix game that came out long time
Oh,
ago?
yeah. It was canon, right? Like there was stuff that happened in that game that was part of the timeline.
I think that was a smart way to have scenes there that wasn't available in the movie, and also will get you to watch the movie after playing it too. But the game wasn't that great. But, but are we gonna see more of that, like that type of thing too? Because I think that's a small way to promote the
Yeah, I
product.
think, you know, we're lucky to have a partnership with Remedy, as you know, right?
Oh,
like
Remedy,
Entertainment,
one
right?
of my favorites.
So, you know, we're developing the Alan Wake and Control linear adaptations of those franchises alongside with them, and we're also partnering with them on the game side. So because of that kind of like creative collaboration and production collaboration, we can make sure that it's interconnected. And so I think more and more partnerships that are like that are gonna net like better storytelling when everybody's kind of like motivated for the same thing to kind of happen.
Well, I'm ready for it because I'm a huge fan. Hey, if you don't mind, I would love to do that.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah, you can ask me.
What do you think about the future? You talk to we're on this side, but like you on the other side of it. What do you think about where all this stuff is going?
Honestly, I see, like I mentioned, Fallout. To me, that made me want to go play and learn more about the story. You know, so like seeing more of that, I think it would be great for the industry. I think, you know, so it kind of the experiment with Matrix, it just didn't work out. But I would like to see more of that. Castlevania, that's a great example too. I see a lot more anime to series too in the future. So yeah. Questions?
We're ready to open it up.
I would love to get Q&A here.
I'm
too.
in. Okay.
Well, it's just a quick question for all of you guys. I wonder what other video game adaptations you wish that exist. Like any others.
That exists?
Not just, from Nintendo to Rockstar, whatever.
Yeah. I'll tell you one that I feel like nobody has ever experimented this. It's a very old game, Dragon's Lair. I see a lot of potential with that. There's like so many ways how they could share the story, or probably have it like interactive too, like in through Netflix. I think they had something there before, right? With I can't remember the name of the series, but something like that would be cool.
Bandersnatch.
Yeah. But Dragon's Lair will be cool, in my opinion. Old school.
I'm a huge Zelda nerd and fan. I was just gonna say shout out to Henry in the audience because he's made a film that actually has some Zelda.
That's actually happening.
Sorry?
That's actually happening.
Oh yeah, Well, yeah, that's true actually. It is happening, right? See, this is like I'm having trouble following all of the trends. Okay, so yeah, I would say that. But also like I kind of wish, again, bias with Square Enix, like I wish that the Final Fantasy films were actually pretty good, but they weren't. So like I just want maybe some remakes.
Advent Children.
Advent Children was pretty good.
Oh yeah, that's true. That
was good. Any other ones?
It's just on my mind, but probably like Stardew. I love Stardew so much.
Yeah, I mean it'll never happen because they don't need to. But like GTA, right? Like GTA, they don't need to. There's like,
I mean, they're already.
It's going to be the biggest entertainment launch of all time. Like, why would they do a movie that Yeah, but it would be cool to see like just the writing, right? Like they're actually writing, getting into a thing. Because even the short films that they produce within the worlds are always like really good. You know, when you go into the theaters and check that stuff out. So clearly they have really talented writers. It would be nice to see them, do something different. But it's never gonna happen.
You never know.
We've got a question back here.
Perfect. This is all good. And then over here in the corner, just for an alternative. Okay, you crazy kids, it's almost time for the animation panel. Well, the industry forum panels that I used to go every year at this festival. But yeah, I'm very excited for you guys.
Panel of the day. Woo! Before we begin, we'd like to acknowledge that we are standing on ancestral lands of tribal nations and their citizens. We pay respect to the elders, both past and present. Specifically in Los Angeles, we recognize that we are occupying lands that belongs to the Tongva, Tataviam, and Chumash peoples. Please take a moment to reflect on the many legacies of violence, displacement, migration, and settlement that bring us together here today. We invite you to join us in exploring such truths at any and all public events. And many thanks as well to our incredible group of volunteers who are helping make all of this festival happen, our crew, our people on tech, everybody who's made this here today. And now we have, as I said, our final panel of the day as part of Unlocking the Future, Los Creativos. If I could bring everyone to the stage now. This is presented by LXIA, or Latinx in Animation. As we pick our seats. And I'm gonna let my dear friend, Brian Dimas, co-founder of LXIA, take it from here.
Hello. Great to see a lot of familiar faces out in the crowd and a lot of animation fans. I'm Brian Dimas. I'll be moderating this talk with these creativos out here. And first, let me introduce everyone that's up here. First, next to me is Gonzalo Cordova. I'm gonna read your full bio so they get the full.
Oh my God, it's really long.
So Gonzalo is a South Florida native of Ecuadorian descent who moved to the U.S. with his family when he was 6 years old. After graduating with a BFA in film from Emerson College, he moved to NYC where he developed his writing and directing skills from 8 years of creating stand-up, sketch, and comedic plays. Gonzalo currently lives and works in LA as a television writer. His credits include Jimmy Kimmel Live, the Academy Awards in 2017 and 2018, Adam Ruins Everything, Tuca and Birdie, and Undone. He is the creator of the upcoming Adult Swim series, Women Wearing Shoulder Pads, as well as a co-creator of Edith, and the writer and director of Brandy Finds God. And then next we have Rick Morales, who is an Emmy-nominated animation producer, director, and artist whose work in the industry has spanned over 20 years, touching some of the most iconic characters and acclaimed franchises in animation. He is currently serving as the supervising producer on 2 separate Warner Brothers animation productions, the upcoming Get Jiro for Adult Swim and season 2 of Creature Commandos from HBO Max. And last but not least, we have Norma P. Sepulveda, who is the story editor and head writer of Disney Junior's Ariel, currently airing on Disney platforms worldwide. Her writing credits span hit shows like Firebuds, Spirit Rangers, Mickey Mouse Funhouse, and Elena of Avalor, where she got her start as an apprentice writer. She has also developed original projects with Disney Junior and Netflix, and lent her storytelling eye to development teams at DreamWorks, Spin Master, and Moonbug, just to name a few. A proud indigenous Chicana from Southern California, Norma brings heart, humor, and cultural depth to every world she builds across genres, audiences, and formats. All right, so again, thank you, all 3 of you, for joining. And what makes this talk particularly exciting for me is that animation features a wide variety of roles, and to make this talk interesting, we try to encompass it with a simple title, and we kept coming up with ideas, and we finally settled on Los Creativos because you guys are all involved in animation in a creative way. So, it would be great to hear from you directly. What is your role on your current project? What do you do for those who may be familiar or not familiar with animation?
Yeah, I should grab this thing, right?
Yes.
All right, so I am the creator, I guess executive producer, and just kind of a little bit of everything on a show called Women Wearing Shoulder Pads. It's going to come out, I don't know, I forgot if I'm allowed to say the time it comes out, the date, but it's going to come out really soon. And for me, creatively, I was, worked with the writer's room, just the whole thing. I don't know, the whole thing was creative and very hard, but very rewarding. So I usually am in writer's room, so I'm usually, there for the scripting, and I work a lot in adult animation, so a lot of the times I'm gone by the time they're boarding and the animatic for whatever reason. So this is the first time that I've seen a project from beginning to end in animation, and it was so joyful and so hard. I don't know. I had a baby this year, and it's the same. It was just as hard and just as wonderful. Yeah.
That's awesome. And Rick?
Yeah, so I'm a supervising producer, like he said. That means that I basically oversee the creative of all the animation, the visuals, from story to design to final animation. I'm usually the guy there that's seeing it through post, meaning I'm at the mixes and the sound effects spotting and doing all that stuff. So that's my role on Get Jiro and Creature Commandos. Which is a little different than some of the DirecTV stuff that I do with the DC stuff. So currently, there's a Batman thing that I'm working on where I'm much more involved with working with the writers and the stories and stuff like that. But you know, when James Gunn writes Creature Commandos, it's a James Gunn thing. He's gonna take care of that. So yeah, that's what I do. I oversee the whole thing and make sure it's the look is consistent.
Thank you. And Norma?
We have to share. Hi everyone. So as the story editor, I'm also the head writer. And so my responsibilities are running a writer's room, making sure everything from the storytelling perspective, I'm in charge of that, making sure the character arcs are working, the episodes from ideation all the way through, final script. And so that is my job, just to make sure that the whole season, the whole series, it has a voice, and that the voice is being matched from every script that I get. So everything gets funneled to me. I have to sign off on it, and then I give it to one of them, like the creator of the show or the showrunner. And then they give me notes, and I go back, make some tweaks, and then we send it off to the studio and hopefully get it into production where someone like him would come in and then add their magic to it and make magic together. So that's what I do.
Great. And I'll kick off this question for everyone, but we can start with you, Norma. Is you guys all come from different backgrounds and got your start in animation in different ways. Could you talk a little bit about how you got your start in animation? Because I think what's really exciting whenever you talk to anyone that works in animation is everyone got into animation in a different way. There's like not a set way to do it. So how'd you get your start, and could you talk about what inspired you to go into this industry in the first place, and what was your breakthrough?
Okay, wow. Okay, let me see if I can do it in 60 seconds. So I don't know how to...
You get a little bit more than 60 seconds.
Okay. So I actually come from a screenwriting background. I got my master's from the American Film Institute. And so, I thought I would be making indie dramas. And so you leave film school with your head this big and you think, I'm gonna be the next Scorsese, like, watch out world, I just got my degree. Somebody's gonna call me tomorrow and we're good, we're boom, like it's on. That doesn't happen. It might happen to you, but it didn't happen to me. And so lots of years of trying to launch my career from the sidelines, working a full-time job, writing on the side, trying, not knowing that I was in my way, trying to get myself out of the way, having some confidence, not having any confidence, family coming in like, hey, that writing thing, don't you want a job with full benefits? And they mean well, and just every life just starts to continue to happen, and you're like, well, am I gonna do this thing or not? And so lots of years of that, eventually ended up quitting a full-time job with full benefits, and I said, okay, I'm gonna give myself 2 years. I don't know how or what. I have enough, I saved enough to kind of just live very leanly, and I grew up poor, so I know how to live on, food stamp money and that kind of thing, because that's where I come from. And so 2 years, like maybe a week before I finally said, okay, God of the universe, this is not working out for me. I don't know what else to do. I guess I just have to accept that you don't want me to be a writer. I get a call January 3rd, 2018 from Ligia Villalobos. Some of you people know her. She's a wonderful person. And she said, hey, they're hiring over at Elena of Avalor. I know Sylvia. Do you want to be an apprentice writer? And I was like, take note of this part. Brain said, but you don't know animation. You don't know how to write. You don't know how to draw. Like, what would you do there? And then the other half of me like, shut up, stupid. You're about to go to a full-time job in another thing completely unrelated to animation. Just try it. You might like it. So I said, yeah, absolutely. Like, yeah, let's do this. I had no clue what I was getting myself into. I had 2 interviews, landed the role, and within 2 weeks, I was madly in love with animation. And one of the things that I learned as a writer, again, AFI, a tour, blah, 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 you know, the whole thing. It's like writing is writing. There's still a beginning, middle, and end. You still need to tell a cohesive story. It needs to have heart, it needs to have drive, it needs to have purpose. Whether the character is jumping through rainbows, going to an intergalactic mission on sprinkles, the whole thing that animation can do, we need a drive, we need to know why. And that was the big light bulb moment for me, that so long as, if you're a writer, own that, and you can take that anywhere and make it work. And so I've been here ever since, and I'm so in love with animation. That was a really long answer. I'm sorry, but I wasn't
That's a wonderful answer. And I hope bring writers that kind of take note that, you know, it's a marathon, right? It's not a race. It takes time, and again, like, you go through ups and downs, and thank you for sharing that. Rick, you know, same for you. How'd you get your start in animation? What was your breakthrough? What inspired you to get into animation?
Well, I always drew, you know, since I was a little kid, and I always knew that I was gonna do something with it because it's the only thing I was good at. So I thought I was gonna be a comic book artist, and I was lucky enough to grow up in Burbank, which was a pretty good place to grow up if you're gonna get into animation. And it just so happened when I was about 12 years old, a comic book shop that I went to was like, hey, we're gonna start a class for kids your age to learn how to draw comics. And I was like, sign me up, I'm in. If they'll take me, I'm in. Turned out it was a little bit more than that. And it led to a mentorship with an animator named Johan Klingler, who ran this sort of school that I was a part of for many years, and still didn't plan to get into animation. I was studying to be a comic book artist. And then when I graduated high school, I was at Comic-Con, and the comic industry was like in shambles at the end of the 90s, right? If you're familiar with that, you know, every kid my age thought they were gonna be Jim Lee or Todd McFarlane or Rob Liefeld and be a millionaire, you know, but that didn't happen. So there I am, like, with my portfolio, like everyone else, showing it around Comic-Con, and just so happened Warner Brothers Animation was there, and I showed them my stuff. I think I was 19 at the time, and I just so happened to have some Bruce Timm style drawings in it, although that wasn't most of what my style was. I love Batman the Animated Series, and I did notice when they looked at it, they were like, where are you from? And I was like, Burbank. And they're like, okay, call us when you get back into town. So I did, and they had me submit a portfolio. I didn't know anything about animation except for, you know, I could draw and this and that, so I figured, what am I even applying for? I guess character design, I could draw characters. And they looked at it, and I got a call back, and they were like, you want to take a storyboard test? And I was like, yes, of course I did. I didn't know what the hell I was doing, but they gave me about 3 pages of a Batman Beyond script to test on. And I had a week to do it, and I killed myself, and it was terrible. And but I got it done, and I turned it in, and I was just beat. I was up like 30 hours every night, just, you know. And I remember I got a phone call. I was still asleep, having just turned that thing in, and it was Sean McLaughlin, who was the line producer on Justice League, was what the show would have been. And he was like, yeah, we got your test. It was okay. And I was like, all right, I mean, whatever. I didn't care, I was so tired. But he was like, yeah, why don't you come in for an interview? And then I met with Bruce Timm and James Tucker and Glenn Murakami, and for whatever reason they hired me on as a storyboard artist on Justice League, and I kind of learned on the job. So it's sort of, I fell into it in a way, you know.
That's awesome. And what a show to start your career on as well, with
Very
legends,
difficult
living
show to
legends.
Yeah, for me, very similarly, I grew up loving like TV and film, and I kind of knew I wanted to do this since I was like, I don't know, like 11 or 12. Just kind of knew, was obsessed with it. I went to school for it, but honestly, like that's not where I kind of got my start or where I figured it out. It really was, I did stand-up in New York for 8 years, and I was telling Brandon in the green room. Yeah, I did stand-up in New York for 8 years and just kind of went out every night, figured out how to do comedy. I am obviously not a famous, rich, successful stand-up right now, but it taught me so much about myself and about how to tell jokes, how to write jokes, how to communicate with people. And that got me a job, on Adam Ruins Everything, which was my first TV writing job, which was like on True TV a few years ago. And that kind of led to everything else. I got on Kimmel. And when I was at Jimmy Kimmel Live, it was a really great job. It was a really good job in a lot of ways, but I don't know. I wanted to tell stories, and I had an opportunity to work on this show, Tuca and Birdie, created by Lisa Hannawalt. That was an animated show. And I knew who Lisa was. I was a fan of Lisa's for a very long time. I, read like kind of weird comics and all that stuff. And I quit my job, which was probably on paper a really stupid thing to do, to go work in the very, very turbulent world of animation and kind of do like the writing room hustle of, sample scripts, interviews, trying to kind of jump from show to show. But I don't regret it, because I get to tell stories now, and it kind of led all to like this world of animation for me, where I now have made an animated show. And I feel like there's a kinship between me and animation. For me, it was, it's a world where like a joke, you can just kind of perfect it, and that reminds me of stand-up. You get up every single day and you kind of like work on a joke, and with it, you can just like, you write a thing, you see the storyboard, you see the thumbnail, you see the storyboard, you get the radio play, you get like the thing, and you just kind of like try to make every joke really great. And I don't know, I love it. It's fantastic.
And that's really cool to hear. Like all of you have mentioned that throughout the process of animation, like a lot of people are adding on to everything. Like whether it's comedy or action, like you write the line of action, and then storyboard artists are coming and actually creating something like incredible, and it evolves. It evolves into the final product that everyone gets to see, which is such a collaborative experience. This next question is, I'll keep it here with you, Gonzalo, is, again, Women Wearing Shoulder Pads is the first Spanish language animated series for Adult Swim, and it's also in stop motion. So can you talk a little bit about how you came up with this concept for the show, as much as they allow you to say, and then and how to eventually land it at Adult Swim, and how you connected with Cinema Fantasma to work on this series?
So Women Wearing Shoulder Pads is a really weird show. It's in Spanish. It's in stop motion. It's set in the 80s. It's set in Quito, Ecuador. And really it came from a deep, deep frustration. I pitched it kind of a few weeks into the pandemic, and I was frustrated because a lot of the stuff that was coming my way, look, I'm Ecuadorian, I'm not, I think sometimes a lot of Latinos can get lumped in, and a lot of the stuff that was coming in is like, we want you to develop this show about this Mexican family in Boyle Heights of this very specific culture. That show should be for somebody else. That's not where I grew up in South Florida with an Ecuadorian family. I probably could learn that show, but it felt like it was being brought to me because it was like, you're this thing, and we all know that that's not quite the way it is. And I was like, I really want to make something that's specific to me. That's just 100% me, that there's no fear, no worry about trying to make it. So many of the things I've pitched, I'm like, I really want this to sell. I kind of didn't care. It's like the first thing that ever sold. And it just was so freeing. And that's what this show is just like an expression of kind of half-remembered memories of my childhood in Ecuador, the summers that I spent with when my dad worked there, and just a lot of hodgepodge of a lot of stuff that I kind of half remember, made made into a melodramatic film noir stop motion in Spanish. Yeah, so that's, I don't know how else to answer that.
And then how did like Adult Swim initially react to when you shared this with them? Like, were they hesitant because it was in Spanish, or?
Well, they bought it, so they must have. I'll say that I did not tell them that I wanted it to be in Spanish until like halfway through. I think at one point I started saying, hey, I think this should be in Spanish. And they were really supportive, but you know, it was like, we had to, in the pilot, it was like, let's see how this plays, let's see how this works. And yeah, when the pilot was done, it like, I was like, this is really cool, this really works, this feels unique. The whole show's unique, the whole show's its own thing. I mean, I can't lie and say that there weren't a lot of conversations about it, but I really admire Adult Swim's gutsiness to do it. I mean, people don't like to read, and the show has subtitles, so I'm just so deeply proud that it exists, and it exists in this way. It's in the Cinema Fantasma side. I also credit Adult Swim. Adult Swim set us up with one of our someone at Adult Swim, Ollie Green, set us up with Cinema Fantasma, and that just felt so right to have a Latin American studio. They're based in Mexico. Make a show that is about Latin America. It's specifically about Latin America, a Latin American country, not just, and that's also kind of decoupling it from all of us being one thing. I was like, I want to make a show about something super duper specific, which is one country in Latin America, and that's what we did.
Awesome. Well, again, congrats. And we're excited for when it gets announced to actually release and stuff.
Let's give them a round of applause. And then just a reminder that later this evening we'll have the Nimate animated shorts program. So if you love animation, go watch animation later tonight at LALIFF.
Many thanks to Brian for leading this conversation. And if you have more questions, we're all going to continue hanging out here as this officially turns into our networking cocktail. Just quickly ahead of that, please come back tomorrow. We have a full day of programming in here, unlocking the craft. We have 5 executives across Disney Entertainment, all Latino, who are coming to talk. We have a panel on demystifying the sound. Get some refreshments. We'll be back at 3 for our final panel of the day, Los Creativos, presented by Latinx in Animation. And then after that, from 4 to 6, we will be having another happy hour. And today we will be having an open bar of beer and wine. So please, I know everybody stay calm. But please also check out our CNN collective outside if you haven't yet. And please enjoy. We'll be back soon. Thank you.
Look at this. This is what it's all about. Animation people just hanging out, you know? This is what it's all about. Yeah, Edward James was here a second ago. I just say I don't know for a sec. Yep, he's pretty chill. Here he is, the man of the hour. Ish.